Hello and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. Now today we're talking legislation which is having an impact on financial institutions across the world. I'm joined in the studio today by Jackie Bugnion and she's going to tell me more about it. Jackie, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Jackie, can you tell me a little bit more about ACA?
ACA was founded about 33 years ago here in Geneva, but we now have worldwide membership in over 90 countries. And we are the only organization which is representing the interests of American citizens residing overseas in Washington, D.C. ACA also is concerned with issues related to transmission of citizenship. There are issues related to Social Security and Medicare and voting. In addition to the taxation issue is the banking issue. And I think we'll get onto this.
We're going to be talking a little bit more about this new legislation. We've been hearing so much about this FATCA. In fact, we've mentioned it a few times on Dukascopy TV. Can you tell me a little bit more about how FATCA affects Americans living abroad?
FATCA is creating a major impact on the life of Americans overseas. And in fact, coupled with citizenship-based taxation, FATCA is the straw that has broken the camel's back. Banks, because they are required to report on all American accounts to the IRS under FATCA, are turning away American citizens. American citizens are having difficulty maintaining bank accounts, obtaining mortgages, and when they live overseas and they cannot have a local bank account, this is a rather dramatic situation.
So, Jackie, ACA have recently published the tax reform proposal. Can you tell me a little bit more about this?
Well, we have developed this proposal precisely because of FATCA legislation. The reason is that the United States is the only country that taxes its citizens wherever they live throughout the world. This situation already creates issues of double taxation, complexity, and high cost of compliance. But it also has led to a dramatic situation for many Americans overseas who simply were not aware of the fact that they had to do this reporting. And of course now the purpose of FATCA is to have all banks report directly to the IRS. So these people who have not been reporting have their backs to the walls. And at the same time, the IRS has developed an extremely aggressive policy to go after what they call tax evaders. But the people overseas who have perhaps not been filing, for the great majority of them, do not owe any U.S. taxes. They have to file, but they do not owe any U.S. taxes because they can take taxes on their foreign tax credits, and the great majority live in countries with higher taxes. The major problem with FATCA coming on now is that the complexity of reporting for Americans back to the IRS has increased substantially, and the risks of what I call tripwires that have been introduced by the legislation has created more difficulty. The problem with FATCA is complexity and cost, and the fact that there are admittedly a large number of Americans overseas who have been totally unaware of their filing obligations up until now, and it was ignored more or less by the IRS. It's the new policies combined, the new policies of the IRS with FATCA, which has really created a problem for many Americans overseas.
So Jackie, how does this new legislation, this FATCA, affect American business and the American economy?
Well, it affects it very seriously. One of the parts of the FATCA legislation is that if an American owns a 10% ownership in a foreign partnership, that partnership has to report to the IRS. This is blocking out American citizens from foreign partnerships, from other business arrangements. And the other element linked to FATCA is the fact that it being more difficult for Americans to reside overseas now, coupled with the citizenship-based taxation, U.S. corporations will be sending even fewer Americans overseas to represent their interests. Already they're sending very few because of the citizenship-based taxation. So that the FATCA legislation is going to have multiple impacts on business activities this way, and the other one linked to the financial institutions is the fact that foreign institutions are going to invest less money in the United States because of the great risks, perceived risk, legal risks, and the cost of the reporting.
I see. And just lastly, how can people get involved with ACA? Where would you advise them to go?
I advise people to go to our website, which is www.americansabroad.org. Please consider joining us and becoming a member. The fee is modest, but we're always looking for new members. And of course, we're always open to voluntary donations. We're a nonprofit organization, and we depend on our membership fees and a small activity to finance our operations.
Well, Jackie, thank you so much for coming into the studio and sharing this very important topic with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. That's all from us here in the studio, but click back to the website for more interviews and updates.